industrial strength hammer drill like you might have in your garage for drilling these days. So we go from hand steel immediately to power drills. These drills will do about 6 feet holes for us very fast. The discharge from the compressed air is adding a little ventilation. The problem is early drills we're drilling dry. So we're putting all this extra air out, and then we're making lots and lots of dust at a great rate of speed drilling this way versus hand steel. Pretty soon miners are getting silicosis or miners consumption, miners con as they called it. Took them about 10 years before they figured out dry drilling caused miners consumption. And then they realized, hey, if we just put a hole down the center of the drill still and put water into the drill still, we can get rid of the dust. So that happened in the early 1910s. Nitrate-based explosives, so we get away from nitroglycerin. The nice part about ammonium nitrate is if you can tap it all day long as hard as you want. It doesn't go off, it doesn't freeze when it gets below 30 degrees, and it's lower cost. At the same time, the Swedes invent what's called the Jackleg Drill, or what they call one man, one machine. This thing only weighs 125 pounds. The post and pole drills back there weigh about 350 to 400 pounds. The leg extends pneumatically, so the air pushes the leg. We've got a pivot in the middle. We can drill horizontal holes, up holes, down holes, whatever direction we want. So improvements in productivity using the Jackleg drill. What you're standing in is a square set timbering, which was the ground support of choice here in Butte. It's originally invented in Virginia City, Nevada by a guy named Philip Diedesheimer. If you go to Phillipsburg's named after Philip Diedesheimer. They also got a good group out there, owned by a geologist, believe it or not. So the expectation was you come on the shift, you drill, you blast, you have your lunch. After you blast, the first thing you do when you come in, you're gonna have a big long steel bar and you're gonna start poking everything. You wanna make sure that there's no loose rocks. All of this rock's blasted out, but we could have loosened something up here. So they always told the newbies and the trainees, be sure and scale the back, so bar down any loose rocks, because if you don't, and a Dugan hits you, it's gonna kill you. And a Dugan was a nickname for a rather large rock that you didn't see. The reason they called it Dugans was if the Dugan got you in the mine, when you got up to surface, Dugan got you at the mortician. That usually gets a laugh, jeez. So after we blast, we've scaled, then we're gonna bring our ore car in here and we're gonna start mucking. After we've mucked this out, or dug this stuff out, we're expected to put one more set of timber out here. The timber came pre-cut, mitered, so if you're wide enough and high enough, it fit together like Lincoln logs or Legos, really slick and easy. If it was too wide, you had to spend time blocking against the rock because the timber had to take the weight of the rock. If it was too narrow, you had to waste time taking another cut, making it wider. You didn't just go in with an axe and kind of trim it. These were 12 to 18 inch timbers that were used. Questions, comments, concerns? Copper-laden acidic water passes over the tin cans. Copper exchanges with the iron in the water, so we precipitate 6 of these. We're going to bring the ore car out here where our trusty mule's waiting for us. And miners used to say the mules could count because when the third car got clicked on, he was ready to move. If you tried to click on car number 4, the mule wouldn't move. The mule's got an hour for lunch, the miners only got 30 minutes. Mules, once underground, stayed underground. They were stabled underground. And then once a week, a veterinarian with the company would visit all the mines and all the mules. So if a mule was unserviceable, they would hoist him back up and send him out to pasture.
So they brought all the hay and water for them and everything down into the stable area?
Yep.
Wow.
And then probably some new person had to do the stable cleanup.
The mucking.
I would imagine. Yep. Pretty soon we realized that we could build rechargeable electric batteries. And then we can move the locomotives, take the mules out of the mine. So the 1910s, the carbide lamps are invented. Carbide lamp works with, there's a water reservoir on top and calcium carbide in the bottom of the lamp. Water drips on that calcium carbide and makes acetylene. We light the acetylene and we get a nice flame, 1.5 inches, 2 inches long. Which is kind of handy. Definite improvement over candles. 1920s, this thing was invented. It's called an overshot mucker. It's basically a front end loader on rails. We stand on that plate, hang on for dear life to the controls, drive it forward, get the bucket full, back it up to the ore car, flip the switch, and this bucket throws the whatever's in it into the ore car behind you. So you didn't want to be leaning over when that bucket went whizzing by. So the worst hard rock disaster in the US occurred in June of 1917. To me, the ironic part is they're lowering a cable to improve communications in the mine. Back in those days, cables are wrapped in lead and jute and tar and paper and all sorts of things because they didn't have the plastics and rubber we do today for insulation. Cable broke free and then got tangled up at one of the stations. Foreman went in to see what happened with his carbide lamp, which is shooting that flame out. Catches some of that insulation on fire. Poof, we've got fire in the shaft. The shaft is lined with wood, so pretty soon the shaft's on fire. People on surface didn't know what was going on because it was what we call a downcast shaft. So fresh air was coming down the shaft, pushing that fire and smoke into the mine and then ventilating out a different mine. At the end of the day, 168 miners died. There was 3 groups that had gone into dead-end headings like we first were and barricaded themselves in. So they basically sealed in what good air they could and tried to keep out the bad air. So they just stacked up timbers and clothing and mud and whatever to try to make a seal, a refuge chamber. Those 3 groups were rescued about 3 days later. So that's the good news out of the story. So there was about 43 people that did survive between the refuge chambers, and some of them were able to escape through neighboring mines depending on which level they were working on. So if you see the memorial wall up on surface, there's 2,300 and some odd names on that wall. That's only of miners that died on the job. It doesn't include the miners' consumption cases. At this mine, there was 8 fatalities, 7 underground and 1 on surface. The last name on there is in 2001. That occurred at the surface mine right over here, Montana Resources. That mine, conversely, for the last 8 years has not had so much as a lost time injury. So mine safety has taken a huge improvement. Ore car with its contents is going to be hoisted up to the shaft, or up to the top of the shaft into the ore bins that are about midway through the head frame. And then this is our bin of materials. You and 6 or 8 of your best friends would get in there at the start of shift, and we'd hoist you or up to the top or drop you down to whatever your working level was. So to communicate with the hoistman up top, they used a series of bell signals. This gets a little loud. So 2 bells, one was the first level or the 100. The hoistman would acknowledge that he got your call, and then you'd wait your turn until the hoist showed up. When you got in, you would bell to what level you wanted to go to. If you're going to the surface, or you're going deeper underground, and then off you went. The nice part about bell signals is at one point there were 17 languages spoken underground in Butte. Most people can count. You don't have to translate bell signals.
So this is the actual shaft?
This is the actual shaft.
I can see water down there about
Yep, about
maybe 100 feet down. What water?
about 50 feet.
Or 50 feet down? That's 50.
What level are we at?
We're at 65. Water's about 110.
110.
Yep.